Hi, it's Jarrell, your Minister Miracle Worker Life Coach, and I'm here today with Andrew Pharo of Cahaba Brewery. And you talk about an amazing young man, right? We've had several conversations over the last, I guess, a few months, but he's actually one of my bosses, if I can say it like that, one of the investors in a company that I work for. And just never really got an opportunity to sit and talk with him until a couple of months ago. And what I found was just an abundance of understanding about how to do business. So anyway, all that said, right? Welcome, Andrew. This is the Miracle Making 101 life coaching community, yes, I'm grateful to have you here and to give you the opportunity to share with us some specific things about building business. Now, you didn't start out as a brewmaster, right? So go ahead and tell us a little bit about overcoming, maybe some failures in business. What would you tell the people, about starting a business? What does it take to do it, and what is the process that you went through in order to come to the place that you got to now?
I would love to say it's a pleasure to be here for one thing.
Yes.
And it is a journey. Entrepreneurial spirit is something that a lot of people are born with, and you can coax it out of people too. And I think I knew from an early age, everybody in my family kind of had a side hustle. So right off the bat, we were entrepreneurial. We had different companies. I think I started off as a paper boy, and I was in Avondale doing that. And then I was a waiter from when I was 17 on. Before that, I was a busboy from when I was 14 on. So I always kind of went above and beyond to try to find something to do with my time to generate some enrichment for myself, for one thing.
Get that dough. Enrichment. That means get that bread.
Right. It's all about enriching oneself and the people that you care about that are around you. That's right, when you can. And so I started off working for other people and really took advantage of every opportunity I had. And then when I got into college, I kind of started doing my own side hustle. And I tried a few different ventures. I did some sales programs. I did some service industry stuff. I basically fell flat on my face every time I tried to start a venture in college. And I think one of the reasons is I was not focused. I was not focused on what I needed to do. So, and also I hustled, but I had many hustles. I needed to focus on one hustle.
Okay.
So
that's an important key.
It is.
You can't do everything.
That's right. You've got to manage your time. It's about managing time and relationships and money. Most importantly, I think those three things are just very important. Some of the projects I did, I wasn't capitalized right. I didn't have the money to do what I needed to do. I had a great idea. I was motivated and hungry, and I just didn't have the financing to make it work. So that was a big pitfall. I should have been more diligent about how I went about it probably on the front end. And then
so that has to do with research, finding out how much money you need.
That's right, having a plan, documentation, to get somewhere in life. One of the most important things, I've mentioned two things that are very important with the entrepreneurial spirit and starting up a business. You've got to hustle, and you've got to be focused. You cannot be distracted. If I make beer, so I made it a point to focus on just making beer. Everybody asked us to do restaurants and do liquor when we first opened up, but we wanted to focus just on our core business. So it's important that we focused on that core business and made it work before we moved on to anything else that might be a distraction from what we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So you got to have the hustle, you got to have the discipline. You got to be financed. So that's one thing.
Right.
Another big problem I've had with startups, like I said, is the money part of it. And one of the reasons I didn't do the planning on the front end. So what I've learned is that any project I do, I have to write down my goals and where I expect to be and what dates to hit those by.
Yeah.
And what I do is every month I grade myself. I'll look back at my goals. And these are not just business goals. You have to have a good work-life balance too. You're out there hustling, but you've got your relationships, which is very important, and I'll talk about in a second.
Right.
But you've got to have some goals, and you have to look back and evaluate yourself. And you have to,
Now, what you said, I know I interrupted you, right? I want to emphasize this. It's not a goal unless it's written down. You may have all kinds of dreams in your head, there may be all kinds of things that you're capable of doing and you want to do, but listen, if you don't write it down, it's not real. And so you have to make it real. And then you talked about the grading yourself, the accountability that comes with writing these goals. You can check these things off, and if you're not checking them off fast, you know that, or maybe not fast, but if you're not checking them off, you know that you're not accomplishing what you set out to do. So writing them down, this is a part of asset mapping. Asset mapping means being able to write down the things that you have, also the things that you want to do. And so the A in miracle comes in, right there. I appreciate you sharing that. I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah, and those goals, failing on a goal is not necessarily failure. There's some sayings out there. One of my favorites is that if you're not failing every now and then, it's probably because you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
So you always got to put yourself out there. You're going to learn from failures. My failures in business, not having the money, not having written goals, not having the focus that I needed, all caused failures early on in life. So you really do have to manage all of that.
So recognizing recognizing the value of failure. So every time you fail, what happens is you gain information.
That's right.
If you interpret it positively, which is the I.
That's right.
You need to get that information in order to be able to move forward.
That's right, turning lemons into lemonade. So you get dealt a lot of lemons when you are working on a business, just in life in general. And a lot of people's success or failure comes from how they react to those lemons that they're dealt with. When you're given lemons, figure out a way to pivot and make it lemonade. So, it's tough, and sometimes you don't realize how to do that at the time, and it might be years after the fact, you kind of can look back and see, well, I could have made this change and turned that into a positive. And you know what? You just grew from that experience. So as a person, you're growing. A rising tide raises all ships. So all those little bits of information you have just help you in life. Yeah. And one of the most important things are the relationships that you have. So, I was always told if you lie down with dogs, you'll get up with fleas. But it's important to surround yourself with who you want to be like. Yeah. So it's very important. People talk about, dress like you want to be for success. Well, I don't know about that. I think you need to be honest with yourself. It is important. I'm a brewer, so this is brewery. This is brewery formal for me.
No, but it is kind of like a uniform, though.
It is, yeah.
Different places, you need to wear a tux.
Exactly, yeah. If I go in and talk with a brewer and I'm dressed up in a suit, they're probably going to be somewhat intimidated. So it's like you want to emulate who you want to be like and be around. So it's important with relationships to know what type of relationship you have with people and to focus that energy the right way. So there's a lot of relationships you may have with friends that are emotional support, and that's great, but they might not be the best for business decisions or relations for business. So I've got a whole bucket of people that are my business relationships, and a lot of those turn into deep and meaningful friendships, but relations are important. And how do you establish good relationships? You have to commit and be a man of your word. If you say you're going to be somewhere at some time, be there on time and show up. I tell you what, 90% of the game is showing up. It really is so important. Just finding somebody, if somebody's motivated enough to come to me and be on time for meetings and to follow through on what they did and show some initiative, I'm going to give them the world because they've shown the initiative and they're there and they're engaged. So just really committing and following through with your commitments and your engagements with people is really important. Those people are going to learn to trust you, and you're going to trust them, and you can lean on each other. And so you've got this whole group of business relationships that I do kind of keep separate from my personal relationships. And surrounding yourself with the right people is key. If you want to be a business owner, don't surround yourself with people that don't own businesses. It's pretty much that simple. Go out and seek relationships where you can grow from them.
So let me clarify. If I work at McDonald's and I hang around with the people that work at Burger King and the people that work at other fast food places and maybe grocery stores, and I never put myself in a situation where I'm going to be interacting with an entrepreneur, I can expect to stay where I'm at.
That's right. That's
okay.
Right.
So this idea of being intimidated by, because that's what you touch on. The people that I'm working with, in underserved communities. They don't believe that they belong in those situations. They have a negative expectation of rejection, being humiliated, maybe being talked down to. How do you overcome that? Now, clearly I know, right? Because coming from where I come from, I move pretty smoothly through these circles. But what would you say to someone who is having issues with feeling intimidated by talking to Andrew Pharo?
Hey, Andrew Pharo is a man like anybody else. He puts his pants legs on one at a time, just like they do in the morning. So you just have to realize that you're looking at a person, and you have to realize that they've had different experiences that you may not understand, and you just have to realize that you have to just go for it. You cannot be silent. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right. And a closed mouth don't get fed.
You got to put yourself out there. When people when you show vulnerability, and when you put yourself out there in a situation where you don't understand everything, and you let that person know it, you're showing a vulnerability, and most people are going to want to help somebody that's in pain.
Yeah.
So anybody that shows a vulnerability and a want for more knowledge, I'm going to help them. For one thing, it helps my ego, but also it helps them grow. So I know when I was younger, I did try to put myself out there with businessmen. I tried to talk with them and show them that I hustled. I didn't always do it the right way, but I stayed in contact with them, and I got feedback. And over the years, it went from this rudimentary understanding of how business works and doing sales and getting money to a real in-depth knowledge of how I can enrich myself and the people around me. And I did that through the relationships that I have more than anything else, more than any school education or anything else. I do want to say, though, for school education, there's a very important piece to entrepreneurial success. That's right. And that is, you do have to have some basic understandings of finances. There's two things I always tell anybody, and these are the two things I learned in business, and it's really taken me a long way. If you know how to read a profit and loss statement, an income statement, and if you know how to read a balance sheet, there are two reports that you use for looking at expenses and income and cash flow. And you really have to have an understanding of those financial tools to know where you are. I don't know how people can make goals or measurements or grade themselves and evaluate themselves to make themselves better in the future if they don't have a rudimentary understanding of these two reports.
Right.
These reports are something that, it takes a little while to get to know them, but you just have to look at them and take the time to know yourself. That's right.
Make the effort. Listen, success is a learning curve. When if your life was like mine, then failure was what I knew. Not succeeding was my normal. So when it came to, trying to get into that other realm, when I say other realm, what I mean is, my higher, more actualization of my selfhood. You know what I'm saying? I knew that I wasn't supposed to be a drug addict criminal. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to be a good man, a respectable man, so on and so that was success for me. But it wasn't my normal. So I had to watch people, and I had to learn from people who were already where I was at, and take notes, literally take notes.
I tried lots of side hustles where it's fast money, quick money. I had my guys in Avondale. We did all sorts of stuff. And you know what? They weren't thought out. They weren't planned out. The financing wasn't there. The logistics, the hustle, we were distracted. And those are always the projects that failed.
Yeah.
And those little failures all added up. All those little lemons got turned into lemonade until I finally feel like I figured it out. So that was really important. That education piece with just at least the basic finances is something that's real key.
Yeah, so learn and that was my point, is that, learn what you got to learn. You know what I'm saying? Success is there's a learning curve on it. So, be grateful for that. Listen, Andrew, we appreciate you being here. I think this has been probably, I know you were a little bit intimidated by it.
Very intimidated, terrified.
This is the miracle making community. These are people that are trying to network. We are trying to make sure that we go about building our lives successfully based on relationships versus the transactional type of attitude that the world has. I think that lasting success is going to be in the relationships that you have, and you mentioned this earlier. You know, the stock market could crash tomorrow, people could be jumping out the window, God forbid, right? But it'll be the relationships, no matter what is lost, it'll be the relationships. People are the most important thing in the world. And so when you learn how to do relationships, I don't think you can miss being successful. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll see you next time.